and welcome to our webinar, Sensational Series Nonfiction. I'm Julia Smith, Senior Editor for Books for Youth at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by typing the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble accessing these materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a button for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the Captions icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select Show or Hide Captions from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Caption Settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Anna Erickson, Vice President of Sales at the Creative Company, Jen Jensen, Flutterbee Group Publisher, and Katie Boone, National Sales Manager at Mitchell Lane Publishers. First, we'll hear from Anna Erickson from the Creative Company. Anna has worked in the children's book publishing business for over 25 years and is stubbornly convinced that all children deserve access to high-quality reading material. She is based in Oakland, California. Thanks for joining us, Anna.
Thank you, Julia, and to everyone at Booklist for hosting this sensational series nonfiction event. We're so happy to be with you. I'm going to look ahead to fall 26 for this presentation because unbelievably it is nearly upon us. And I'd like to talk to you today about the three major publishers that find their home at the Creative Company. They are Creative itself, as well as Amicus and Black Rabbit Books, and they all work together to create a really comprehensive library of juvenile nonfiction for pre-K all the way through high school. The books that we're going to look at today are available, as always, in library-bound series, library-bound hardcover with a reinforced stitch binding, paperback, ebooks. And also, I want to shout out that about 80% of what we're looking at today is released in Spanish in those formats, as well as English. We really have a high percentage of titles in Spanish, and that's now true for even the upper level books, not just the lower level. So you'll see those on the data sheet that Julia set the link up for. Okay, let's kick it off with Amicus. Amicus has a mission to serve younger readers, that emergent to transitional zone. And they do that with several major brands, including Spot. Spot is probably a brand you're pretty familiar with at this point. They are books for the younger kids, truly the ones that are just beginning their reading journey and are looking for an ATOS range of 1.0 or under. So these are low-level books in a 16-page format. But even beginning with these, you'll see the priority that this group of publishers puts on really good-looking books where the images stand up to the text in terms of value. Design is an integral part of all of these books. For these low-level titles, each of these 16-page books really focuses in on little extra features like the search and find game that comes with all of them. You'll see that in the new set coming this fall on backyard birds, as well as the continuation of Around Town, and the continuation of Community Helpers. It's a brand that's serving a wide range of subjects, as is the case with many of these. Here's a little look at that search and find game where you are invited to quote unquote spot. You'll see the pun there. Four keywords and details from four of the larger images as you work through these sets. It's a really nice way to kind of extend that low-level reading experience and give these books a real sense of coherence. Um, One of the biggest brands within the Amicus portfolio in recent years has become Curious About. Where Spot is dealing with the pre-K to kindergarten range, Curious About is written to the second grade level. And they use I should go back, I should say, trigger warning, there are some snakes coming. Everybody look away. I'll give you a clear once we're past this slide if you are snake adverse. Okay, here it comes. Um, Curious About also covers a wide range of topics, and one of the big ones this fall is going to be this set on dramatic snakes, everything from anacondas to garter snakes. These are books that use a Q&A format in a 24-page presentation. And the neat thing about them is that they use a Q&A format from a kid's eye perspective. So they're really zeroing in on what is of interest. Okay, snakes are gone. What is of interest to a 7-year-old, 6, 7, 8-year-old, but at a second grade reading level? And it's hilarious how that perspective can be a little bit different than an adult perspective. We also have 21st Century Inventions, and you're going to see a continuation of the holiday set this fall that actually began in the spring 26 list. So as you can see, we're covering a lot of ground with these books, but that Q&A is consistent throughout, and the way it is applied across all of these subjects really raises the interest level on this series. We're going to look later in the creative list at Amazing Animals, which is our, perpetually our top program across the board. But Curious About has really been knocking on the door of amazing. So when we're looking at books in demand, books with great reviews, keep an eye on this Curious About brand. Okay, and then also recently released is Extreme Weather. So this was a spring set that's out now. Amicus tends to dive into more curricular topics, but they do have high interest as well, and they always have done. So they've created a dedicated home for it in Amicus High Interest. And most recently, that has been the place where you'll find the Inspire list of celebrity bios. There's two sets I want to talk about here today. One is for sports for coming in fall, and then the next is more general entertainers. But just a shout out to Amicus because one thing you'll see in everything they do is they really take a lot of care to represent their readers as fully as possible. And they do that in all kinds of ways. One way is purely to make sure that the guys and gals are evenly balanced in a set like this. So you'll see when they're dealing with celebrity athletes, they're looking at not just the fellows, but the gals too. And they really have been great about kind of tagging and featuring up and coming athletes who are just about to hit their, real peak, as well as the more well-established, well-known ones. So in the spring list, the one that just released, you'll also see a group of actors of various sorts. And once again, good representation of guys and gals in these is also. These are books purely for fun reading, and they are great, great books for fans and those who are interested in up and coming names. Okay, Amicus Illustrated is where they're using a 24-page format to really dive deep into various strands of narrative nonfiction, and that includes science, a lot of great SEL titles, health, some fun ones also. Um, this illustrated approach just allows them to go a little bit beyond where stock photography, it can be a limiting factor. And you see that in some of the SEL topics they've tackled, including the upcoming fall series, Making Mistakes. I love this series. It really gets to the heart of what happens when we as humans, no matter how old we are, we mess up and we realize it and we want to make it right, and we don't always know how to do that. So making mistakes takes you straight into what comes next. How do you make amends? How do you use your words to take account and apologize? One of the best known series in Amicus Illustrated in recent years has been My Life With, which has dealt with real kids dealing with various health situations as well as life circumstances. And that has been the springboard to take a deeper dive into a couple of topics that are a little more complicated. And that includes things like ADHD looks like me. So this is a book that says, okay, ADHD, like autism, and that's another topic that they've taken this approach with, does not necessarily express the same in all kids. It's wide. It's a spectrum of experiences. So let's look at how it plays out in more detail. So this is a great example of taking a deeper look at a more complicated topic that is impacting a lot of kids, both those who are experiencing it and those often in a friend group or classroom who are sitting next to a friend or a classmate who is also experiencing it. Okay, Amicus Illustrated, as I mentioned, is also a great home for science titles. So this fall, keep an eye out for Illustrated Life Cycles. This is going to be a deep dive, not just into, the butterfly title, the frog, which are more familiar, but also a puppy. We get a domestic animal here. And then a deeper look out into the lion community. So a real great diversity of titles in this set. And then in spring, available right now, they did a look at the human body. So just a go-to evergreen set for everything from the circulatory system to the skeletal system, using little cartoon characters to guide you through. Didn't know I needed a cartoon character to get me through the GI tract, but turns out it's really helpful. And then, as I've also mentioned, a little bit of fun. Sometimes you need a break from all the heavy duty stuff, and DIY drawing is exactly that. This is a fall 26 set that gives you step-by-step instructions for drawing a range of animals. So it's a great kind of STEAM title where you're crossing over into natural history, but also just having some fun with art. And if there's anybody who remembers Ed Imberly out there, that's what this reminded me of. Really enjoy the step by step, how to deal with the different shapes and get to a great result. Okay, so Amicus really gets you started, and then Black Rabbit is there to help you over the humps when you start hitting some hurdles. So they're serving striving readers in a range of ways, beginning with the little kids, the lower levels, kindergarten to second grade with Bolt Jr. These are very templated books. They're high interest from here to sundown, looking at fun topics, and they're really just trying to get you into a book format and keep your attention there and to help you experience a success. So, paranormal, dinosaurs, all the good stuff with a light sprinkling of infographics and a lot of just a little bit of humor and a high level of engagement. That is also true for Bolt as we hit the older kids. Bolt is a 32-page format. It's written at a fourth grade level, but it's really intended to serve middle school kids who are struggling. So they're looking for topics like gaming on the spring season to take you into that book format and help hold you there. Top Rank is a whole program that comes to striving readers in a slightly different way. Rather than just high-low, it's using a format that is completely chapter-based. So each chapter in a top ranked book is almost a story in itself. You don't have to get through the whole book at once. It's really about take it a segment at a time, take it a chapter at a time. There's two reading strands in top rank. The lower level is written at a third grade range, and then the upper level, top rank in depth, is written at a fourth grade level. But both are intended to serve older readers. You can really see that with top rank in depth. These are books for middle schoolers, again, all the way up to eighth grade. The topic, the look, the feel, they're for older kids. It's just that they happen to be written at a fourth grade level and they are written in standalone chapters. So you can dip in anywhere, read them in any order, and have a success. Okay, and then last but not least today, I want to look at the creative company itself. These are books for pre-K all the way through high school. They're beautiful books. They're meant to be engaging visually as well as through the text. And that begins with starting out our 16-page format for pre-K and kindergarten. We've done a lot of animals within starting out, as well as transportation and other popular topics. And these are really cool because they use a first person perspective. So they're great little read alouds, and they have some nice extras like a QR code that'll link you to the sound that these adorable little bunnies make as little babies. Marvels is our brand for the first grade reading level, and it really is Marvels, as you can tell by the name, it's a tip of the hat to the world of comics. You see that in the look of the covers themselves, as they also deal with a range of topics. And you can also find that in the interiors where you have a pretty straightforward informational text on one hand, but on the other hand, you've got speech bubbles so that whatever the topic is within that book, that thing or that animal or gets a say in the matter. So in this case, this truck is getting a little commentary. There's touches of humor there, and it's just a nice little spice. Shout out that Marvels is introducing its first biome set this fall. So that'll be a new thing, and you'll see on the spring list that just released a planet set as well. So good mix of high interest and more curricular topics. Okay, and as we're going to be wrapping it up shortly here, but Amazing is our signature series, and most of you know this from Amazing Animals. These are absolutely fantastic books for the second grade level. They're oversized, they're beautifully designed. And we've got a set this season that actually looks at amazing animals that are more in a backyard setting, as opposed to out in the deep, deep wild. Same look, though, really accessible feel to these. And also want to highlight that we are now releasing the classic titles, the most popular amusing animal titles, in bilingual editions. And because of that generous design inside these books, it allows us to place the English and the Spanish side by side, which is a lovely bonus. Look for Amazing also for topics like transportation with the Sky Masters and Olympic sports and on from there. Speaking of sports, two big series coming this fall. We have a refresh of the Super Bowl champs. This is every NFL team that's ever won a Super Bowl. And also continuing to do smaller sets of topical titles. In this case, we've got a set of 6 different books about major sports and their championships, their core championship um, teams, games, history there, including Women's World Cup. I'm happy to see that. Got a lot of requests for high interest books for older kids, middle school and high school, and several great opportunities for that niche in the fall as well as the spring here, including a set on astrology with signs of destiny, continuation of our game changer set. This is middle school histories of popular games. For older kids. So these are deeper dives, bigger page counts, meaty, a lot to them, but very high interest, similar with voices in pop music. And then wrapping it up today, I've got a couple nature sets for older kids, including Spotlight on Nature. The Spotlight program is also extended to nations, so you'll see that. Living is gone from just living wild to also topics such as architecture. So you'll see this for middle school. and high interest again when we get into living in the spotlight, deeper dive celebrity bios for middle school and high school kids. And last but not least, the Odysseys program takes us all the way up to the high school level with animal titles, extreme sports, which are one of our most popular sets for Odysseys, and soccer stars. All right, that is it for us. On we go to Flutterbee and Mitchell Lane, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. And next, we will be hearing from Jen Jensen from Flutterbee. Jen has been in the educational publishing world for 30 years. Her experiences in this industry include sales, marketing, acquisitions, product development, and more. She currently lives in Minnesota, where the month of May can bring you winter, spring, and summer. Thanks for being here, Jen.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and I'm excited to share some of Flutterbee's Spring 26 series to you, or for you. And as you see here on the slide, Flutterbee is home to three well-established nonfiction publishers, Bearport, Bellwether, and Jump, and Kaleidoscope is now fiction. And we all continue to focus on strong curriculum alignment, approachable reading levels, visual engagement, as always, and topics kids genuinely want to pick up and take home and read. So let's dive in. Bearport is up first, and all these are familiar nonfiction topics with unexpected twists. We'll start with one of my favorites, Tech Talk. This series is perfect for those early elementary readers who are surrounded by technology, and me too, every day, but may not understand how it works. What I really love here is how the books take complex concepts and make them approachable for young readers using clear visuals and highly accessible text. These books are also incredibly timely for digital literacy conversations, and often our customers are asked for age-appropriate AI resources. And this series, How AI Works, gives kids a foundational understanding without overwhelming them. There's also excellent back matter showing how technology has evolved over time, which creates natural connections to STEM and media literacy lessons. For school librarians, this series supports classroom tech units beautifully. And for public librarians, these are wonderful, browsable nonfiction titles for curious young readers. Next up is Where Did It Come From? This series asks questions kids naturally wonder about, such as who invented the zipper, where did toilets come from, of course, and how was paper invented? And honestly, kids love weird history, and I do too. The books combine invention history with kid-friendly storytelling and relatable everyday topics or objects. This makes them ideal for inquiry-based learning and great companions for makerspace or invention-themed programming. I especially appreciate how these books encourage readers to think about innovation and problem solving, and they help children recognize that inventions come from our human needs and creativity. All right, now let's head underwater with Seagull's Ocean Tours. This is the second set. There are now 12 books in this series. This series uses seagull narrators to guide readers through marine ecosystems, which give the books a really playful personality while still delivering strong nonfiction content. The topics in these books or the series include sharks and rays, kelp forests, octopuses and squids, estuaries, and marine reptiles. The combination of vibrant photography, as you can see here, and the illustrated seagull guides make these especially engaging for transitional readers. These titles fit beautifully into ocean units, ecosystem studies, summer reading themes, and aquarium partnerships. All right, another standout series in Bearport is Pollinator Power. This series features stunning macro photography and explores how pollinators help plants reproduce, and readers will learn about bees, bats, butterflies, and moths, and hummingbirds. The visuals in these books are spectacular. As you can see here, close-up pollen photography that really captures the reader's attention. And these books align beautifully with NGSS standards on ecosystems and plant relationships, making them ideal for classroom support collections. And they also connect perfectly with school gardens, Earth Day programming, pollinator awareness events, and community science initiatives. All right, I know it's supposed to have favorites, but this is one of them. If your readers love strange creatures, and we think that they do, Underwater Oddities is going to be a big hit. This 12-book series explores bizarre deep sea animals like Dumbo octopuses, flower hat jellyfish, anglerfish, sea bunnies, and much more. Just look at that little sea bunny. Can you believe that? These books balance the wow factor with real science by discussing adaptations, biodiversity, and marine biology. And one especially strong feature is the inclusion of real marine biologists, biologists and their contributions, which adds an excellent STEM career connection. And these titles are perfect. These titles are perfect for reluctant readers because the subject matter feels almost unbelievable. All right, let's shift gears a little bit to an older audience with Chaotic World. This middle grade series tackles disasters and survival stories through a combination of archival photography, STEM concepts, history, and human resilience. Topics include earthquakes, industrial disasters, disease outbreaks, and extraordinary survivors. And these books feel highly relevant to students today while remaining carefully age appropriate. And because the books focus not only on disasters, but also on recovery and heroism, they maintain a really hopeful tone. All right, we're going to jump into Bellwether. This is where high interest nonfiction kids actually want to read happens. Let's begin with Blast Off Beginners. Let's take a field trip. And these are wonderful early nonfiction titles for grades pre-K through second. And readers are going to visit aquariums, zoos, farms, science museums, historical sites, and state parks. All the books include sight words, photo labels, simple sentence patterns, and picture glossaries. And what I love most about these books is how they prepare children for real-world experiences. They help young readers know what to expect and build, and to build background knowledge before they take actual field trips. And these books would pair beautifully with preschool programming, kindergarten readiness collections, and community partnerships with museums or zoos. The next series is First Words In. This multicultural series introduces beginning readers to words and phrases in Hindi, Korean, Russian, and more. There are 12 titles in the series. The books include pronunciations, translations, maps, and culturally relevant vocabulary. Say that fast 3 times. This series is a wonderful way to support multilingual learners, cultural awareness, and global literacy. And public librarians especially may find these useful for bilingual story times or cultural celebration displays, and school librarians can use them to support world language exposure in elementary grades. For the older readers, Behind the Brand, a long-running series, offers a fascinating look at recognizable companies and products. These books explore the company history, innovation, the marketing that they use, charitable efforts, and their business growth. These are excellent for readers interested in entrepreneurship, pop culture, or business topics. And they support financial literacy and career exploration conversations in the middle grades. And then speaking of high interest topics, Music Superstars is guaranteed to circulate. These high-low series profiles major artists while staying completely age appropriate. And these books cover favorite foods, awards, career highlights, and popular songs. And importantly, the books avoid gossip and focus instead on positive narratives and achievements. This is exactly the kind of nonfiction reluctant readers gravitate towards independently. And before we move on from Bellwether, we have Animal Albums. This is a high-low series for middle school grades, and they are beautiful. These books use engaging visuals and animal facts in a playful album-style presentation, which instantly makes it more approachable for readers who might normally skip traditional nonfiction. These books combine engaging animal facts, bold visual layouts, fun captions, and photo-heavy spreads that encourage browsing. Readers aren't just learning basic facts, they're comparing animals, discovering surprising behaviors, and making personal connections with the content. And this kind of presentation is especially effective for reluctant readers, visual learners, and animal enthusiasts. And because the format feels fun and interactive, readers often pick them up voluntarily, which is exactly what we want to see. All right, let's jump into Jump. And this is where little readers and nonfiction meet. Let's start with Machines on the Move. This series introduces community vehicles and transportation machines that children are naturally fascinated by, like garbage trucks, mail trucks, tractors, trains, semis, and school buses. And the books use bright, full-color photographs, labeled vehicle parts, repetitive sentence patterns, and carefully leveled text. Vehicle books are perennial favorites, particularly with pre-K and kindergarten readers, and these titles also support community helper units, transportation themes, engineering discussions, and vocabulary development. I also love that each title includes this tool for caregivers, which gives adult strategies for extending learning before and after reading. That's wonderful for both classroom and family engagement. Next is Hello Insects. This series introduces young readers to insects through close-up photography, label diagrams, and simple explanatory text. The features in these books include, the featured insects include ants, butterflies, cicadas, honeybees, ladybugs, and walking sticks. What stands out here is how accessible the science becomes for our emergent readers, and the children will learn body parts, habitats, the behaviors of these insects, and insect characteristics without feeling overwhelmed by heavy science text. These books are excellent for bug-themed story times, classroom science units, and outdoor learning connections. And honestly, young readers are endlessly fascinated by bugs. I am not, but most young kids are. These are books that invite both curiosity and conversation. All right, and then we are going to jump into Adventures in History. This is a series, it's another standout because it introduces historical figures and events in a way that feels active and engaging. The books use approachable language, vivid visuals with the illustrations, and narrative nonfiction techniques to help young readers connect emotionally with historical moments. This is especially important for elementary readers who are just beginning to understand historical significance. These titles work beautifully for biography units, social studies support, Women's History Month, and independent nonfiction reading. And because the books are carefully leveled, they're accessible for students who may struggle with traditional history texts but still want meaningful content. All right, I want to highlight this series, Women in STEM, because there is tremendous demand right now for strong STEM biographies featuring diverse role models, especially women role models. This series introduces readers to women making major contributions in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and innovation. What makes these books especially effective is that they don't just list accomplishments, they show persistence, creativity, problem solving, and real-world impact. These are ideal for STEM programming, career exploration, maker spaces, biography collections, and cross-curricular classroom support. And they also help students see STEM fields as welcoming and achievable, particularly for girls and underrepresented, underrepresented learners. And for librarians building inclusive collections, these titles provide both educational value and inspirational representation. So as you can see, thank you, Flutterbee's Spring 2026 list offers something for everyone, every type of reader, emergent readers, curious STEM learners, reluctant middle grade readers, and students looking for high interest nonfiction tied directly to curriculum. And all the titles you saw here are available right now. And thank you so much for spending your time today with us.
Thank you very much, Jen. Our final presentation today is going to be from Katie Boone. Katie is the National Sales Manager at Mitchell Lane Publishers, where she leads sales initiatives and builds strong partnerships with schools, public libraries, and educational organizations worldwide. A former elementary teacher with 14 years in the publishing industry, a passion for literacy, and a deep understanding of the market, Katie is dedicated to connecting kids with engaging, high interest, and quality nonfiction resources that support lifelong learning and curiosity. Take it away, Katie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. A big shout out to Booklist for the webinar and the invite to participate. I was sitting here with all of my time and I was looking through the participant list, and it's so fun to see a lot of familiar names. So it was just great to be among great people. So thanks again. As Grace mentioned, I am Katie Boone. I wanted to first start out by just sharing a little bit about Mitchell Lane, as some people here might not know who Mitchell Lane is. And it's a great opportunity to learn a little bit more before we jump into sharing some of the books that we've been publishing recently. Mitchell Lane is a family-owned publisher that is focused on helping librarians build high-interest nonfiction collections. You can go to the next slide for me. Um, so we are very focused on pre-K to 8 in terms of our niche for publishing, and we're publishing nonfiction titles that align nicely to curriculum, but also just seek kids out in a way of engagement. So we want to be the books that kids pick up and don't want to put down, or the books that fly off the shelves, so to speak. And so far, we've really been seeing that activity, and we're proud of it. I'm going to share a little bit more today about some of our notable reviews, but these are all available on our website as well. You can go to the next slide for me. So first, I'm going to start by sharing our titles within the Easy Reader imprint. Mitchell Lane has 3 main imprints, and we'll start with Easy Readers because it is the lowest reading level out of all 3. It's also just kind of an introduction to nonfiction, written with topics that kids love to read about, but there's 2 main components: simple beginning sentences and vibrant and bold photographs. So we'll jump into our first series on the next slide here. This is from Spring Easy Star Biographies. This is an ongoing series for Mitchell Lane Publishers and probably our most popular all-time best-selling series. It's written at a K1 reading level, very much you'll see in the next spread on the next slide, but very much easy beginning, simple sentences focused for just really roping those beginning readers in. Even non-readers will appreciate our colorful photographs and just being able to see their stars on a page. So ultimately, all the titles in this series equate to 20 books. 6 new titles came spring 2026, and you're going to see sports stars, pop stars, and movie stars within this series that will appeal to kids. Go on to the next slide. Easy Readers, we also have a series, How to Be. How to Be is a 6-book series that provides very simple and real life examples of how kids can work with life skills, how they can be fair and honest and form nice friendships and be kind through everything. We received a positive review on this series this past spring from SLJ. And really, this is just meant to build responsible habits for kids, both at home and at school. On the next slide, you'll see an inside spread. Again, we're maintaining those beginning simple sentences and also just the very cute, inclusive photographs that we use throughout all of our Mitchell Lane books. Move on. And then we have Learning About Time. Learning About Time is a nice NGSS and math aligned series that relates time in seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, and years, and they kind of build upon each other. These are really great books that use real life examples to share how time works throughout a particular day or a month and what have you. Kids learn how to measure using time with these books, and then, like I said, they're using time to see how it relates to one another. This series also received a positive review in the spring as well. And then here's an inside look at the book. We're still featuring like analog clocks so kids can really see like this is how we tell time, and during units that they're learning within the classroom or within the library, they're still able to use that analog clock in order to learn. And go ahead to the next one. And then now that brings us to Little Mitchie. Little Mitchie is probably my favorite imprint at Mitchell Lane. And Little Mitchie is meant to build on the background knowledge and build on vocabulary that was introduced with our Easy Readers imprint. This is a great imprint for middle grade learners or MLL students. You're still going to maintain and see those vibrant photographs, but you'll also see a nice high interest spin on all of the titles within the Little Mitchie imprint. You can go ahead. So first, we have one of my favorite Mitchell Lane series. The feedback we've received this season on At Home is unbelievable. This is just such a great series that highlights the world's most unique homes with a spin or like with the perspective of past versus present. Readers are going to follow along through the eyes of a child, like what daily life is like in each of these homes. And, we're publishing books that you're not seeing all the time. So, at home on a military base, at home in a castle, of course, space station. So, kids are learning what it's like to live in these homes through the eyes of another child. Can go on. Here we have a look at home on a farm. What I love about Mitchell Lane is we really do a great job of breaking up text with different text features. This is a great way to provide that approachability to text, and so it's not so overwhelming to a kiddo that is a reluctant or a struggling reader. Here we have a labeling chart. We do the same thing with tally charts. Of course, there's diagrams and range maps and so forth. Mitchell Lane shows a lot of those features throughout the book to keep it high interest and keep kids engaged. And go on to the next slide. We have a highly reviewed series here with Sports for Me, featuring 6 titles, flag football, soccer, tennis, basketball, pickleball, and t-ball. And each of these titles are going to profile a youth sport, providing information on what gear to use, the rules of the game, the history of the sport, and then how to be a respectful player when you're on the court or the field. There's lots of fun facts for readers to learn and soak up. We've also received, like I said, 2 reviews, one from Booklist and one from SLJ on this particular series. My other favorite part, if you want to move on to the next slide, is the design of these books. So the background of each of these titles within the series is going to feature the sport itself, the field or the court. And I just think it's a great way to keep kids engaged. And like I said, the text is broken up here with different text features. Can move on to the next slide. And then we have What Can Weather Do? What Can Weather Do is one of my other favorite series here from our new title collection. And it's just a great look at what happens when typical weather turns wild and all the amazing effects it has on the environment, different animals within the environment, and of course, even us as well. So within the book, within the books, it does get pretty science driven, which I particularly love as a former classroom teacher. I think this series would be spot on to have within a classroom library to support the curriculum. But the cool thing about high interest books like these is they're very much twofold. Somebody could, like my son particularly loves the thought of a tornado, but then freaks out anytime we have a tornado warning. So when we were reading this book, he just loved how, we can be discussing normal weather and how it can turn wild. Very high interest, and the format is spot on for a struggling or reluctant reader. You can go on to the next one. Here's an inside look at the What Can Air Pressure Do? And just like I've mentioned throughout the presentation, I think Mitchell Lane really engages readers with captivating photographs, photographs that really support the text itself and keep readers engaged. So that's my spiel on that. And then the next series, still within Little Mitchies, so second, third grade reading level, is Best Cat Breeds for Families. Best Cat Breeds for Families is an accompanying series to Best Dog Breeds for Families, which we launched spring of 2025. Again, that's one of our best-selling series here. If you have cats, you have to have dogs. I've learned throughout the last 6 months that cats are just as popular as dogs, to a lot of people, especially to kids. So cats, they're obviously have kooky personalities. There's different ways to care for different cats, and how to keep them healthy and happy is going to be portrayed within these 6 titles. This series also received a positive review from SLJ. In the back of the book, particularly, I love Mitchell Lane's back matter. There's a quiz called "Is this cat right for you?" So there's questions for them to answer and considerations for them to take into effect before they can choose if the cat is right for them. So a fun and just appealing way to extend that learning opportunity. And then on the next slide, I'll show you the inside spread again, just, looking at how can we keep readers engaged with, text, of course, but how can we present information in a non-overwhelming way. I also feel like with the introduction here of a chart, it helps take that learning wherever you might want to take it. So this is something that could certainly be used to poll a group of friends. How many cats do you have? How many cats do you have? And possibly make a graph out of it. I mean, there's definitely different ways that you could incorporate this instructionally as well. And you can move on. And then we have Mitchell Lane Publishers. So Mitchell Lane is our last imprint, our highest leveled imprint, really to focus on reading levels third and fourth grade and then higher. So an incredibly high interest collection of titles within Mitchell Lane. I think what we'll look at here is for any struggling or reluctant readers in the middle grades or secondary levels, Mitchell Lane titles would be perfect. I think back to last fall, we had certainly titles at the third, fourth grade reading level, but we had probably about 50 titles for middle school, and the feedback has been overwhelming that Mitchell Lane is an incredibly strong middle school publisher. So if you're looking for strong nonfiction at the middle school level, possibly even high school, take a look at Mitchell Lane as an imprint. We can go on to the next slide and I'll share a little bit more. We had two new series launched within Mitchell Lane. First was Nature's Wonderful Weapons. And this again is one of my favorite series. I'm starting to sound like a liar, but I just love the design of these books and the fact that they're just packed full of information. It's a great series to help young readers explore defenses, how do animals protect themselves, how do they remain safe in their environments and in their habitats. This series was co-authored by husband and wife Julie and David Lavender, and David is a scientist, which I just find to be like that's so authentic of a text. So his voice shined through in these 6 books. And if you flip to the next slide here, one of the reasons I mentioned I love these was the design. So, you're thinking of a scientist out in the wild. We've all seen the TV shows. And I just love that it looks like a notebook that he had pulled out of his satchel, and he had his spiral bound notebook. He was taking notes. He has the masking tape and the index card header, the torn pages or pictures. And I just feel like it just feels like it's direct from the source. The information presented within the books is, of course, very informational, but it's engaging, and the design certainly supports that as well. So you can move on to the next slide. All right, and then the last series I'll share with you today within Mitchell Lane is America's Advanced Weaponry. And this is, again, another overwhelmingly positively purchased and reviewed series. We did receive a Booklist review for this particular series. 6 new titles. I won't read them all, but this is the perfect series for any kid that loves war, military, adventure, and certainly it's a high-low secondary series as well. Each of the titles is going to touch on the size and speed of each of these weapons, how they're used within the military, and then like the history and the presence of everything too. If you flip to the next page, I'll just briefly describe a feature that we use within a bunch of our high interest series, and that is called a closer look. So in the back of all 6 of these titles and additional series with Mitchell Lane, we have a closer look section. So it's essentially a place where we highlight photographs that are featured throughout the book, and then we ask questions about them. Like, why are these Army soldiers doing this? And the closer look section in our back matter is a great way for readers to just extend their learning through photographs. So this is one of those pictures that is featured. If you go to the next slide, I just wanted to briefly share that that's all the titles I have for you. But it was asked, so I just wanted to touch on it that Mitchell Lane does offer free library processing and shipping. And then we do have seasonal promotions as well for our customers to order directly through Mitchell Lane. Our website's right here on this last slide. If you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to me as well. But we're happy to help in the mission of growing libraries and readers around the world. And thanks again for having us.
Thank you so much. And a huge thanks to all of today's presenters. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones, like those you see here. You can also find out about the latest webinars on our social channels. Visit us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky. 150 years of empowering library professionals, advancing access to knowledge, and protecting the freedom to read. Since 1876, the American Library Association has embodied America's aspiration for knowledge and democracy, championing the professionals who make that promise real every day. Scan the QR code on the screen or visit ala150.org to learn how you can join us in helping to shape the next 150 years of libraries. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our panelists and to our sponsors, The Creative Company, Flutterbee, and Mitchell Lane. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.